Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Good morning. So today I want to talk about play dynamics and play therapy. What are play dynamics? I know in play therapy, especially when you're learning, all of us go through this process when we're becoming play therapists, learning about these things called play themes. So one of the things that I find interesting is that play themes are only part of what you need to be looking for. And what I've been doing over the last few weeks is I have taken the Association for Play Therapy's competencies, the core competencies of play therapy that you need to develop in becoming a play therapy to do it well, is to master these core competencies. One of the core competencies is identifying play dynamics, and they split it out into 3 elements. And that's what I want to talk about today, because recognizing what's going on in your client's session is a key part of play therapy. And it's what sets play therapy apart from traditional talk therapy. It's more than just pulling out games and toys and using that to get your young client to talk. Play therapy is about really understanding these play dynamics and how children use them in the treatment process to overcome whatever challenges they're experiencing. And so that's what makes play therapy. That's one of the things that sets play therapy apart from traditional talk therapy and using toys and games. It's how children engage in the play process, accessing those therapeutic powers of play through these play dynamics. And as play therapists, we're looking and understanding what those are. So if you're new to play therapy, I remember thinking about, watching sessions thinking, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. That's when I was first introduced to play therapy back in the 1980s, when I was a special education teacher here in the United States. And I was a teacher. I had a self-contained classroom for children who were struggling with emotion problems. So it was emotion disturbance special education class, which I'll be honest, I hate that name. You'd think that would be one of the ones they've changed, but that one doesn't seem to have changed. I'm hoping that one changes. Anyways, our school psychologist and our school social worker were learning this thing called play therapy, and they would take kids from my class and bring it into their office, and afterwards they'd be so excited, and they would come out and get me and show me what my student had done in their playroom. And I would look at it thinking in my head, what the heck does that mean? I have no idea. And I would just smile and look at them like, oh, that's nice. And then eventually I co-facilitated a group with the school psychologist using play therapy, and I fully understood the magic, but I didn't really understand how to do it. So that's what kind of led me on my journey to getting into mental health, to work with children and figure out how to do this play therapy thing. But it took a while. And even in the beginning, when I was learning how to do it, I remember going to my supervisor every week, and she would point these things out in the videos of my sessions that she was using to help me recognize themes in play, recognize what's going on. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to understand this. But I'll tell you what, though, doing the supervision and getting good training was definitely a game changer. And so that is one of the things that we focus a lot on in my Play Therapy Academy, play therapy consultation groups. Is I always love it. I always encourage people when they have permission to get video. I am telling you, if you are learning play therapy and you're working with the supervisor, when you have permission, using video in your consultation is absolutely the best way to learn, because then your play therapy supervisor or consultant can see what's going on and can help you recognize play dynamics in the session, because there's no way you can describe all that. And that's to get the most benefit out of your play therapy consultation. That's really the most effective way to do it. Once you do it a few times, you will be much better and you'll feel a lot better. Because I remember in the beginning, my play therapy supervisor / consultant saying I should do this. And I was absolutely mortified, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just going to throw up. But once I did it a couple of times, I thought, my goodness, man, this is gold. So the best way to learn to recognize play dynamics and what's going on is to actually show video when you have permission. And so I always encourage that in my Play Therapy Academy consultation groups. And we talk about that a lot. We do a lot of case staffings in there, case consultation in there, looking at photos. But my photos are good, but there's nothing that can replace a video. So that was kind of a short aside. I got off track there a little bit, talking about recognizing themes. But to be honest, I think it's really important, especially for this topic that we're talking about today. So today I'm going to talk about the 3 elements. So we're going to go through those core competencies of recognizing the play dynamics in the sessions. So if you're joining me live, I would love to see who's here. Go ahead and post your name in the comments. Where are you from? What population do you work with? Hey, Steph. So, thank you for always offering validation and imposter syndrome inoculation. You're welcome, Steph. I honestly, I remember that like it was yesterday. And I do think, part of the when you're in supervision, and one of the things I like to do with these live streams also is I think I often wonder if this is one of the reasons people don't take the next step. So child and adolescent therapists, I wonder if it is one of the reasons they don't take the next step is because you're worried about being exposed, that you're an imposter. And I remember saying that to my supervisor years ago, and she would always remind me, you know more than you think you know, and you know more than your clients, which is why they're coming to you. And in my mind, I always thought, well, yeah, and I also have you, so that makes it better. So yes, absolutely, Steph. Hi, Heidi from British Columbia, work with children, youth, and families. Thanks for these fun live streams. You're welcome, Heidi. I'm glad you find them useful. Okay, here's a little secret. I love doing them because I totally get to nerd out and talk about one of my favorite topics. So it's actually kind of fun for me. So that is awesome. So if you're interested, I go live every week and live stream all things play therapy into my Instagram channel, Renewing Hearts Training. Also, I use a platform called StreamYard to live stream into my Facebook group. So if you're interested in my Facebook group, it's for child and adolescent therapists using play therapy and expressive arts. That group is called Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground. If you're interested and you are a child and adolescent therapist using play therapy and expressive arts, just please remember to answer all of the questions. Don't skip any of the questions, because if you answer all of the questions, you will get in the group. And if you don't, you will not. Happens all the time. I always feel bad. So I always like to mention that so you can get it. And then I also live stream into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in watching the replays and you're not on Facebook, because all the replays, I pin them in the featured section in my Facebook group. But if you're not on Facebook and you want to access those, all my replays are on my YouTube channel, Cathi Spooner, Renewing Hearts Training. So you can pop over there and watch all the replays. So, all righty, let's get started. So first of all, what are play dynamics? So like I mentioned earlier, play dynamics are more than just recognizing themes in play. Play dynamics has to do with the types of play that your client is using in the session, and has to do with themes and also stages of play therapy. And so the play dynamics are really the way in which your client uses play to work through and make sense of things and understand things, to help them learn and explore the world and make sense of things. So in the play therapy room, what you're doing is identifying what those are and how those relate to the mental health, social, emotional issues that your client is working through. So you use that information to make sense of what's going on for your client, where they are in the change process, and that's going to help you with your clinical decision making, and also help you to understand whether your case conceptualization was on target, or maybe it needs a little bit of adjusting as you're getting to know your client better. And so that case formulation is what case conceptualization is what helps you with your treatment planning. And if you're interested in that topic, because I think that's a really important topic, we also talk about that a lot in my Play Therapy Academy program, and in our group meetings as well. So if you're interested in that topic, you can watch some of my replays where I go over that in a little more depth. I also have a course on getting grounded in play therapy, case conceptualization. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end if that's something you're interested in. I do think it's an important skill for play therapists to have, is that case conceptualization and using that for your treatment planning process, and kind of also your clinical decision making throughout the process. So I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. That being said, this whole concept of play dynamics has a key role in that. So it's important to understand what those are. And so within the play dynamics, one of the things that you are learning to recognize and understand are types of play. So there are different types of play that children will engage in. And some of this has to do with their personality, also some of their wiring, and the issues that they're working through, the dynamics going on in the home. All of these things are important to keep in mind. What you're doing, though, is you're looking at the type of play your client is using. You're looking at the type of play they're using, the beginning, middle, and end. That's where the stages come in. You're looking to see how these types of play may change and what's going on with that. So there are different types of play that you'll observe. And I'm not going to go into depth because that's beyond the scope of this live stream. What I wanted to do is kind of give you an overview of what those are, so that you kind of have an understanding of what play dynamics means when we're talking about play dynamics and how that relates to your work with children using play therapy. So the different kinds of play are aggressive play, nurturing play, pretend or fantasy play, constructive play, exploratory play, social play, games with rules, all those different types of play. And what I found is it's kind of unique to your client. Some clients go straight into, they spend very little time in exploratory and they'll go right into the aggressive play, and they may stay in that for a little while. They may try out some pretend as they're trying to work through different roles and understand things, do some creative problem solving using fantasy play. They'll do some creative problem solving using constructive play. So the thing to keep in mind here is children access the therapeutic powers of play through these different types of play. And the therapeutic powers of play are how children use play to work through whatever mental health issues or social emotional challenges they're experiencing. So they go hand in hand. And I have noticed that there are some gender differences. Not, generally speaking, sometimes there are nuances to that, and there are, everything is not always everything. And there tend to be, if you look in the bell curve, there's the usual, and then there's always some outside that usual. And so I do notice, I've been doing this for decades, and I have noticed there are gender differences in the playroom, generally speaking. So it's always interesting to understand that as well, because that's going to play into your clinical decision making and your case conceptualization, which is also going to then influence your treatment planning. And we're always in that assessment mode throughout the treatment process and adjusting as needed as we're doing that clinical decision making, figuring out, okay, what's going on here? What are some barriers? How do we help them move through that? And we're using play in order to do that. So those are the different types of play. That's how it relates to play therapy and the kind of the overall play therapy process. There are different, also the thing to keep in mind is when you're working with children, it's also important to understand what's the usual, and keep in mind there's a continuum of typical for any developmental stage. So like 3-year-olds, there's a continuum of what's typical development for a 3-year-old. So for each stage of development, there's a range of what is typical. And so I think it's important to understand what that is, because when you see something, a play behavior or something going on in the playroom that's outside of even the margins of that continuum, then that's really noteworthy. And so the other thing to keep in mind is there are developmental stages or developmental aspects of play. So think about babies and their type of play all the way up to, I would even say, adulthood. So there are different stages of play, and these are also part of the play dynamics that you're looking at and understanding. But also the other thing that you're looking at with some of these typical developmental stages of play, there's a continuum of that, and we want to make sure to be mindful of unique individual differences for each of your clients. So all of these things factor into recognizing play dynamics. And so, just to kind of briefly go over play stages of development, there's unoccupied play, which is typically for infants and really small children. Solitary play, they're beginning to engage in the play process and use that play process to kind of explore things. But this time they're playing more by themselves. There's onlooker play, which is, kind of makes sense. They're looking on and observing. And here's the thing that I think is important to understand this, like I was just mentioning about what's typical developmental stage of play. Onlooker play can look like children are shy and not engaging, which may be the case. And if you're like me and you have neurodiverse children who are also really, really, really introverted, and that's their personality wiring, the introverts, they don't necessarily need to be in the thick of things. So maybe onlooker play is more about, for your client, they're just observing and they're watching and they're learning through that observation. Like my oldest child, man, he did a lot of onlooker play because he's more of an introvert. That child did not miss a thing. Like still waters run deep. That's what I say. That boy didn't miss a thing. And so he's still that way. And I remember my dad being that way. I remember my dad would say things and I would think to myself, because he was like Mr. Quiet Man. Like he didn't say very much of anything, but he did not miss a thing. So onlooker, I point that out because I think it's important to understand that just because children are engaging in onlooker play, it's important to keep in mind that it may not be that they're shy or socially inadequate or awkward. It might be that they are learning through observing, just like how many of you like to do people watching. You're not engaging, but you do learn a whole lot through that people watching. It's kind of the same thing. And then the next stage is parallel play. So Facebook user says, being an introvert in a world that celebrates extroversion is hard. Yes. And in fact, if you're interested, because my kids are young adults now. They're neurodiverse. I did not get the typical kids. But this is like, my oldest is 27. We didn't know a whole lot back then like we do now. Like sensory processing, everybody in play therapy, I feel like everybody knows about that. But that was not something we knew back then. And so anyway, there was a book. That's my way of getting to what I was going to say. There's a book called, I forgot the name of it. I'm going to have to post it in the comments later. I think raising your, something about an introverted child. Oh, it was really good. Last name. Oh, darn. That bugs me now. I'll post it. I'll post it in the Facebook group, what that is. But anyways, what I liked about this book is she calls them innies and outies. And she talks about the difference between introvert kids and extrovert kids, but also celebrates introverts and helping parents. Like I'm an extrovert, but I can channel my inner introvert. Helping parents and others understand their introverted child and helping to facilitate their awesomeness. Because I think sometimes, like you were saying, introvert in a world that celebrates extroversion can be challenging, because I think we can put too much pressure on kids who are introverts, and all that does is make them go in their turtle shell and they don't come out till the coast is clear. I always call them turtle children. I laugh with my oldest these days, like I'm channeling my introvert now. So I think that's important that we're looking at all of these dynamics and making sense of those. So stages of play, there's parallel play, where, kind of makes sense. They're playing alongside. There's associative play where they're really beginning the process to engage more in that cooperative play. And again, children are going to move through that process in their unique way. So it's individualized. There's a continuum of that. So, hey, Melanie, yes, turtle children. That's what I call them. Who doesn't love a turtle, right? And here's the thing about turtle children and turtle people. When they sense things are not safe, they will go inside their turtle shell. That's a hard turtle shell. You cannot get them out of their turtle shell until the coast is clear. So you really got to make the coast clear. And that means you have to go at their speed. You cannot rush them. They will not be rushed. Have you ever tried to rush a turtle? They're happy in their turtle shell. It's safe and comfy, cozy in there. They can outlast you in the turtle shell. So you got to go at their speed and understand that they will come out when they're ready, and don't push them. So so the understanding the types of play is really important. So the next thing to understand about play dynamics is themes. We talk a lot about themes in the play therapy world. Why do we do that? What the heck do we mean when we're talking about themes? And keep in mind, themes are one component of play dynamics, because all of those other things that I mentioned about types of play and stages of play are important as well. Play themes are actually, here's how I define them. It's the psychological manifestation through the play that children are using play to help them work through whatever it is that they're working through. This is how you can see what is going on with them using the play process. And what you're doing is you are learning how to recognize the themes when they show up, what they mean. You're noticing any shifts in the themes, how they're using the play to work through that process. And psychologically, socially, emotionally, what do those themes represent in relation to their the reason that they're coming in? So what is the purpose that play themes serve in play therapy? So this is how you're going to know what's going on with your client, and you're observing any shifts in the themes you're noticing. And this will also help you understand what we're going to talk about next, which is where they are in the play therapy process. What stage of play therapy are they in? So you're identifying and you're recognizing the psychological manifestation through the play process, what's going on with your client. This is a critical difference between play therapy and using talk therapy and pulling out games and art supplies to get your client to talk. Children are going to talk through the play. Adults are going to talk using their words to tell you what are going on. Children are going to use their play to tell you what is going on. So and this is where recognizing themes comes in, because you're recognizing the themes of what is manifesting in the playroom and where they are in the play therapy process, any shifts or changes that go on in the play therapy process. So the next play dynamic is stages of play therapy. And so how does this matter in the overall provision of play therapy? How does all this fit together? How do these play dynamics fit together with types of play, themes of play? Well, you're tracking these through all the different stages of the play therapy process. And you're recognizing where the child is, what the change is, if they're making any change, or if they're gaining any mastery. You're looking at that through the play process and the themes that are manifesting. And this is, to me, this is one of the reasons it's really important to get into a good consultation group program or individual consultation, whatever meets your needs, because this is a projective modality in many, many ways. You're having to manage your, it's that whole transference and countertransference thing, projection, recognizing what's me and what's not me, recognizing what comes up in me and what does that mean as it relates to my client, and then how do I use that information clinically. I once had I had somebody say to me one time, this was not a play therapist. In my head, I was trying to think, okay, don't be mean, Cathi. Don't jump down her throat. She's doing her best. How can I say this in a way that educates and helps to understand, and maybe even gain a new convert to play therapy, that'll be useful to this person? And one of the things I wish I could say this was something I didn't hear very often. And I'm sad to say that is not the case, which is also one of the reasons I do these live streams, is really kind of help to promote what is play therapy and how it's different. Which is what this person's, and I've heard this a few times, which is, oh, they're going to play it out, and then I'll just make sense of it. But what I knew about this person and the people that I've heard this from is they don't know how to do that because they've not taken any training. They've not gone through any supervision. And to me, that's a dangerous thing. I remember being that way. I remember decades ago when I could not find a play therapy supervisor, and there were play therapy rooms, and my supervisors would say to me, oh, just do the best you can. And I remember watching my client do amazing things in the playroom and thinking, I have no absolute idea what's going on here right now. And it felt horrible. And yet it still happens. And so to me, that's one of the reasons it's really important to get good training and consultation. So Facebook user says, I need help with tweens. They often feel too big to play, but they don't yet have the cognitive abilities to talk, Freudian style, or they're grumpy adolescent boys that don't want to show their hearts. Oh, so true. Yes. And in that way, I use play therapy. So once they get into their adolescence, the tweeners, they're moving in that direction. We can still use the therapeutic powers of play. Their play looks different. They do like playing. They just play differently. Boys, generally speaking, some boys they are more artistic and creative, so you can get them to use art and maybe Santra. You can see all my miniatures behind me. I use that a lot. Or games. Some boys are more active. You can use the therapeutic powers of play and using more directive activities. That is one of the ways, and to get them involved using some of the expressive modalities like art or music. I love using poetry. You can use games. So they tend to have more directive. They tend to be more directive, and you tend to have to talk to them more. So their play, and this is where the stages of play, understanding the play of middle schoolers and high schoolers and even adults looks different. So with the stages of play, your theoretical model is really going to influence how you make sense of what's going on in the playroom. Your theoretical model is going to influence how you make sense of the problem and how you're going to what it's going to look like to get your client through all the stages of the play therapy process. So that's the other thing for play therapy is rooted in a theoretical model that dictates how children are going to access those therapeutic powers of play for change, and how you show up in the playroom, how you make sense of what goes on from session to session to session. So there are typically, generally speaking, and different theoretical models will call these different things. Generally speaking, there are 3 stages of change, 3 phases, 3 stages in play therapy, and I would say also in traditional talk therapy. So there's that initial exploratory getting to know you, getting to know the playroom, getting to know the expectations. What are the rules in here, and how does this work? And then the second stage of play therapy is typically the aggression phase. It may be called a different thing depending on your play therapy theory model. But here's where you'll see some of those. Typically, you'll see some of those aggressive urges coming out, typically in the form of conflict and what children are experiencing. Some children go through this phase quicker than others. And again, depending on your theoretical model, it's going to dictate what kind of what it's called, because this phase is kind of a transition phase from, okay, now I'm getting to know you. I figured out I have a sense of how this works, and I haven't gone to the deeper level things yet, but I'm getting ready. I'm preparing to go there. And then the next phase is more that going down to those deeper level issues. This is where the change process is really happening. And that may have different names. Some of the name, like child-centered play therapy, they would call it the regression or nurturing phase. Other play therapy models will likely have called it a different name. And then the final phase of play therapy is where your client has really been able to work through some of those deeper level things, and they're feeling a sense of mastery. Their self-esteem is better. Their problem solving, their relationship is better. They've got more skills under their belt. And this is now where they're transitioning to the termination phase. So this, and what you're doing is you're looking at using those types of play and themes to recognize where they are. And it's not uncommon that children will, as they're really transitioning between phases, they may go back and forth between those stages until they're fully in the next stage of change. So that is it for today, talking about play dynamics. Just a recap: recognizing play dynamics is an essential part of being a play therapist. This is where you're recognizing what is going on in the play therapy room, and that's going to help you do your clinical decision making about what you need to do to help them get through what's going on for the child and what it is that they're working through. And recognizing the types of play and the themes is what you're looking for to help you understand that process. And then as you're observing the progression and regression through the play therapy process, you're using that information to understand where your client is in that change process, in that healing process. So that is it for today. So if you found this information helpful, please like and share it across your social media platforms. I go live every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. If you're not available for the live itself, then the replays automatically generate afterwards. You can always find all the replays on my YouTube channel, Cathi Spooner Renewing Hearts Training. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy is an overall program to help new play therapists really develop confidence, learn the skills that you need to learn in order to be effective and help your clients and make that difference in their lives. That is the reason we all get into this profession. So Play Therapy Academy is a combination of twice a month we meet for group consultation, and we do staff cases. You get feedback. We identify themes. We identify where children are in the change process. We identify and learn all those case conceptualization and clinical decision-making skills so that you can use play therapy grounded in the model that you are using, play therapy theoretical model, to help children overcome the challenges. So we do that by twice monthly group meetings, and we do 2 case consultations within each group meeting. And there are also courses in Play Therapy Academy to help learn those foundational skills and get a really, really solid grounding in using play therapy. So there's a series that I'm in the process of developing. I have 2 courses already available. So the series of courses is called Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence. The first course is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations. The second course is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization. The course that's going to be coming out by the end of July is going to be Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Treatment Planning. And then the next one after that is Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Progress Notes. And then the one after that is Integrating Parents in the Play Therapy Process. So all of those courses are available in Play Therapy Academy. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy, then hop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. On the courses page, you'll see information about Play Therapy Academy. And if you're interested, you can book a free call with me and we'll talk a little bit more about it. If you don't need the group consultation component and you just need the courses, those are available just kind of a la carte, so to speak, on my website, which is rhplaytherapytraining.com. Yes, rhplaytherapytraining. So it's Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training, and rhplaytherapytraining.com, and it's on the courses page, and you can see all the courses that I have available there on demand. And I have an in-person Santre training coming up in July here in Southern Nevada. So that is all on my website, and I will post some links in the comments. If you're on Instagram, you can pop over to my bio and click the link on the bio. And so I will see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.